We've got a lot of new Gen X moving into retirement ages. So here's the deal, everybody. RV parks are going sky high right now. Many parks have waiting lists 3 to 12 months in advance. Our corporate buyouts. There's a larger demand. RV park prices have doubled. Why RV/van life has gotten too expensive. Let's talk about what's happened over 2025. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing really good. Let's get right into it. Yeah, campgrounds and RV park prices have gone nuts. Did you know that? See, I'm not an RVer. I'm just a minivan dweller. You know, I wrote the book, How to Live in a Minivan, The Minivan Leeway. And I've lived in a minivan for 8 years now. It's 8 years. And this is my home. I'm Minivan Lee. Not really in touch with how expensive RV life, like Class A's and Class C's. I'm not really in tune to what's been happening with all their expenses. So I did a little bit of research, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Let's go through one of the reasons. What used to be $25 to $35 site is now $55 to $80 for basic hookup and $90 to $150 for anything near a metro area or national park. Okay, so why? And this is per day. So why? Well, what we've got going on over the past couple of years, and they really hit this year, are corporate buyouts. We're seeing the rewards of that right now. Yeah, they're feeling it. And there are dynamic pricings, just like in airlines. The demand from remote workers and retirees. Yeah, there's a larger demand, and cities are pushing nomads out of free areas. Yeah. I mean, we've known that. We know that that's it. The largest issue came from San Diego. People want that weather. You know, San Diego around the world, has some of the best weather. Yeah. I mean, year round, it's anywhere from 65 to 75, 65 at night, 75 during the day. Who wouldn't want that? You've got the Pacific Ocean right there. Yeah, so San Diego is a high demand place. And what happened was, and I'm not telling you anything new, is that these Class C's and Class A's were just lining the streets, and they were camping out there. They were just staying there, parked along the street. Well, it is street parking, but yeah, and some of them were broken down. Yeah. So the lifestyle that was supposed to be cheap, and it was house on wheels. Yeah, no rent. It turned into a hotel pricing. Yeah, because if you're looking at some of these places, a night are costing up to $180. I mean, in Tucson, even in the winter, well, not past January, but any other time, I can find a Hyatt hotel or a Wyndham hotel for $100, $99, some of them $88 a night. That has everything right there. So yeah, $180. So let's get into that. Free overnight options are shrinking for RVers. Walmarts have banned, in most cases. Okay, Walmart, let me rephrase that. My last video that I did on parking at Walmarts, still 55% around the country still allow parking. So I will give them that. Maybe it shrunk a little bit, maybe 45, I don't know. But my last research was 55% still allow overnight parking, which I mean, that's more than half. Yeah, I made some coffee. You want some? There you go. Yeah, let's sit back, relax. Let's get into some figures here. Now, even if You don't have an RV, you're in a minivan or your car. This is all applicable because what happens is a lot of this stuff trickles down. So pay attention to these policies, everybody. There's more city ordinances. I get that. I've talked about that. A lot of you have said it's a federal law. No, it's not. They're just ordinances. Each city is different, city and county. Parking lots with signs are everywhere. You may not park overnight. No loitering. And we got a lot more police wellness checks. Yeah, at night, for parking at night. Now, during the day, you're fine. Except, I don't know, I've heard of some businesses that are not allowing you to just sit in a parking lot, especially a Class A, something like that, because they'll be like, well, you're just taking up all these spaces. And a Class A are notorious for parking spaces to be like this, and they pull in like this. So they're taking up like 9 or 10, and they like to have the shade. So that can be an issue. I will mention when I was up in Flagstaff, my friend Rhonda came by and we were going to do a van tour. So I was looking around the parking lot and I found this one spot that still had shade. It was only going to take about 15 minutes. So I knew the sun was going to change. But for 15 minutes, well, I stood there waiting for her to come around and park. Well, I was standing there, and there was a Class A coming, and he also had one of those huge trailers behind him. So he probably would have taken up about 15 spaces. Well, he pulled up right up to me and honked his horn, and like, what? I mean, I have to move because of you? I said, I'm saving this. She's coming. I'm saving this spot. He came out, and he was very, very belligerent. And Rhonda finally came around and parked. And so he went up ahead, and he did it very abruptly with that kind of power and that kind of weight was not cool. And he literally kept circling it and staring at us. And we're just trying to do a van tour. If you go back and look at that van tour, I think we both were a little bit on edge during that. It wasn't like a fun van tour at that point because he literally was just standing there. I mean, it's like they, if you have a Class A, sorry, but sometimes some of the Class A'ers, RVers, can be very elitist. It's like everybody's got to look out for them. But I'll tell you, their costs are going sky high. And half of it is driven by the optics, not safety. Cities don't want the look of people living on the streets. They don't want these big RVs just living there. Yeah. So let's go over the costs, the numbers, and the reality with no fluff in it. Let's talk about fuel costs. Oh my gosh. A Class A mile per gallon is 6 to 8 miles per gallon. A Class C is 8 to 10. And here's the real cost to move for them. 300-mile move, like traveling, $150 to $250. An 800-mile move, $400 to $700. Cross-state summer travel, $500 plus. Yeah. So in my thinking and my logic, you really, in order to enjoy RV life now, especially for a Class A, you would have to be well off. You wouldn't have to worry about money. Yeah, you would have enough. And you would still have a home. And I'll talk about the summer. What are you going to do during the summer? Where are you going to park that thing if you're a full-timer? So the ideal thing is to have really good retirement. Yeah, or be a trust fund baby, okay? And have your money and you don't worry about expenses. And in the summer, you'll go back and you can park your RV in your driveway and you can go in your home and live. That's one of the reasons why big rigs aren't really even moving that much anymore. because they can't afford to. Okay, here's the reality. RV park prices have doubled. Once private-owned RV parks, they were now sold to corporations because they couldn't handle it anymore. They didn't want to deal with it, so they let a corporation buy them out, probably a good price. So what they did was they added pickleball courts, dog spas, concrete pads, and premium zones. Then they doubled the rates. Isn't that what's going on with homes now too? So let's do a before and after for these resort parks. And I have read about that even before I did research on this. And I was thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. But here to find out, it's really more of a detriment than a help. What used to be $30 to $35 a night is now $70 to $95. $450 a month to $900 or $1,500 a month, plus electric. Yeah. Well, that might sound like, well, that's a pretty good deal. Wow. But you know what? These fancy ones that are that expensive, they're not going to accept anything that's over 10 years old. That's the kind of park that's going to be very, very picky. And they can be picky, and I'll tell you why. Well, let's go on with price. Premium sites are $120 to $180 a night. I'm going to turn on, oops. No, I can't turn on my fan. My battery's dead. Okay. And then popular states like Florida, California, and Arizona, $140 to $220 night winter rates. So many, and listen to this, many parks have waiting lists 3 to 12 months in advance. Yes. Now, that's one of the reasons they can be so picky, because they're in such high demand. There are all these people that chose to live van life, but they wanted to do RV/van life. They wanted to take a house with them. And many of them do drag those great big, they're like huge closets. They're larger than the thing that they drag behind them, they're larger than my minivan. So they really are bringing a lot with them. People that would do that have to be like, they just really want the comfort. Me, I'm doing fine like this, but that's what makes the world go round. There's all types. I wouldn't want to drag all that stuff around. Okay, let's go to KOA RV site nightly rates. They now run about $40 to $80 a night, with the average camping stay around $50 when you don't need full hookups. For hookups and full service, they're about $80 to $100 a night regularly. Yeah. So here's the deal, everybody. RV parks are going sky high right now. They're being bought out by corporations, and they're adding on these little things that a lot of RVers never really asked for. But they're now stuck with them. You can only have there's only so many RV parks out there. And they need a place to go. Okay, let's look at the maintenance and repairs of a RV. The tires, a Class A is $350 to $600 for each. So, well, I heard they were expensive anyways, but now they're running $2,100 to $3,600 every 4 to 6 years. A Class C, every 4 to 6 years, about $800 to $2,100. Repairs, roof reseals can run up to $3,500. A slide-out repair can go as high as $7,500. A generator repair can go up to $4,000. Water damage fix can go up to $10,000. Transmission repairs, oh my gosh, up to $12,000. One major repair equals half a year's rent in a house. Now, from what I found out, is insurance has spiked also. Yeah. Full-time RV insurance are about 120%. They've gone up since 2020. So here's a real example. A Class A, about $1,600 a year. Yeah. Monthly rates are disappearing. Corporate parks figured out the math, okay? A monthly guest is $900. Nightly guest revenues are about $4,200. So now what they've done is they removed the monthly rates and they added the max of 1 to 2 weeks. If you can get more from nightly and you could stay only, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Why does everybody say 2 weeks? That's pretty much, they're going with what like a campsite does, a federal campsite or BLM. They're going with that instead of the monthly rates. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking already, especially if you're in a minivan and you know Quartzsite really well. In Quartzsite, and I'm not saying they're not out there. Maybe some smaller towns, you're going to have to really look for them, you RVers. But I do know in Quartzsite that you can get good rates in an RV park year round. And let's get to that. So if you're already thinking that, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, Quartzsite. Here's what I'm thinking. When I was doing all this reading, I was thinking, well, it's going to come down to the fact that if you're not uber wealthy, you're not a trust fund baby, and you have a home and everything somewhere that you can just go and enjoy your time in the summer, go travel around, fill up your gas tank. Yeah. That what you're going to have to do now is you're really going to have to just go to BLM land and you're going to maybe have to spend the winter in Quartzsite. I mean, that's probably what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do that because you can stay there for free. Possibly you could go in an LTVA for $180 for the 7 months. But you're going to start getting more limited if you have an RV, which is one of the reasons I wrote the book, How to Live in a Minivan. But the book also goes with, you can do it with cars, ProMasters, SUVs, yeah, and the like, yeah. Build out vans. RVs, I knew, I would not want to buy an RV. That was never my plan. I knew that was a little bit at the time, it was out of my price range. But I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. I don't want to drive a big bus. Yeah, I go work for Greyhound if I want to drive a big bus, or I could get a really nice job with great pension driving a Suntran bus in town. Yeah, no, that sounded too bulky. I like the minivan. But here's my logic, and I think you'll see it too. Is that's really where people are going to have to end up if they're in a Class C or a Class A, and they're going to have to spend their winter there. Yeah. Now, like I said, there are RV parks in Quartzsite. Yeah. And they're not expensive. Now, are you going to want to spend all year round there? I'll tell you what, it's hot. It's hot in Quartzsite. It's actually one of the hotter places. Well, Yuma is the hottest in Arizona, but I think Quartzsite's next. And it's actually hotter than Tucson. Yeah. It might be equal with Phoenix, but it gets hot. 118, it can get up there. What I have found, my issue with Quartzsite is that it tends to draw all the moisture out of my body, even in the winter. It just has that, it needs moisture, and it will find it any way it can, and it gets it out. You just have to drink all the time. I don't know, there's been 3 or 4 times where I had to leave Quartzsite and do it quickly because I felt ill. And I know Max has left a couple times too. So being there in the summer, it's going to be so expensive for your air conditioning. Yeah. A lot of people do it, but if that's what you want to do, you would have to, because why? Well, where else are you going to go? If you can't in the summer, where are you going to go? If you're going to go out, you could find BLM land up in higher elevation. Yes, you can go to, excuse me, you can go to Flagstaff, you can go to Belmont. There's areas around. But I'll tell you, some of those roads with the Class A, some of those roads are pretty bumpy. Yeah, they're pretty bumpy. Getting in there, some of them. So, what are you going to do in the summer? I think I'm going to guess that a lot of Class A nomads that chose to go that route, they're kind of scratching their head like, wow, we're kind of being shoved out of a lot of places. Yeah. Summer diesel to run a generator? Yeah. $25 a day in fuel. Now you can have, it's going to take a lot of solar to keep a large air conditioner going because the Class A is pretty big. A Class C is, Class A is probably in the worst situation right now. Now, a Class C, I do know that if you go up to Flagstaff, Rhonda has a Class C, and she got it in fine. She had to be careful with the bumpy roads and things like that, and pulling it in where there's, grass and things are not even, and then you have to even it out. You have to put it up, these levelers and things like that. Yeah, but a Class A, I'm going to say they're the ones who are the most screwed right now with all the prices and the diminishing places to park overnight, during the day and overnight, but especially overnight. So yeah, so fuel is now hundreds per move. RV parks doubled in prices. Monthly rates are disappearing. They want to go week by week or day by day. The cost of repairs, insurance, quartzsite only solves the winter, not the summer. Yeah. So let me know what you think in comments, okay? Please leave me a comment, even if it's just an emoji, okay? And subscribe if you haven't. Give me a thumbs up. I know this is good information for everybody. Why? Because not everybody is totally secure in their house. They're just not. I think some people, to me, a home can, in these days, almost seems like a false security behind paper walls. Yeah. So, but I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I just don't, there's no guarantee that everything's going to be copacetic forever. Prices are going up. They just are. And even if things get fixed, prices usually don't go down. Once they're up, they're up. So we've got a lot of new Gen X moving into retirement ages. We've got a lot of boomers already in retirement who didn't prepare totally for retirement. A lot of people are going to be thinking about, well, where am I going to go? And when I do have to move into a vehicle, what kind of rig am I going to get? So this is for you, not a Class A and not a Class C either. Yeah, you might want to go with a build out if you must stand up. And of course, I love the minivan. I think it's just the perfect size if you're not too big and you don't mind the small space. But I'll tell you, you get used to it, Okay, so I will see you tomorrow morning, okay? Go look at this morning's. It's just a fun little video. And I will see you, tomorrow's Turkey Day. That is if you're watching it on the day that on today that I put it out. If you are doing that, you have a really good day tomorrow. Don't eat too much, okay? Try to stay away from the sugar and the breads. What fun is that, she says. What is she doing to me? She's going to make me feel guilty. Well, go ahead, but you know what's going to happen. I love you guys. Mwah. See you tomorrow.